بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السادة المندوبون الموقرون، أسعد الله صباحكم. أود أن أرحب بكم جميعا في الجلسة العامة الأولى لدورة المؤتمر العام العادية 66. بموجب المادة 48 من النظام الداخلي، أدعو المؤتمر الآن إلى التزام الصمت لمدة دقيقة مكرسة للصلاة والتأمل. شكرا لكم. أصحاب السعادة السفراء والمندوبين الدائمين، أود بداية أن أعرب عن الشكر والتقدير لكافة الدول الأعضاء على الثقة الغالية التي أولوتموها إلى دولة الكويت وإلى سلفي السفير صادق معرفي لقيادة أعمال الدورة 65 للمؤتمر العام للوكالة الدولية للطاقة الذرية، والشكر موصول لمجموعة الشرق الأوسط وجنوب آسيا على ترشيحها لنا بتوافق ودعم ثمينين. كما أود أن أجدد امتناني لسكرتارية الوكالة على جهودهم التي ساهمت في تسهيل مهمة الرئاسة وفي إنجاح أعمال الدورة 65. السيدات والسادة الحضور، تؤمن دولة الكويت بأهمية العمل متعدد الأطراف، وتدعم كل ما من شأنه أن يعزز التعاون والعمل المشترك فيما بيننا ودفعه إلى آفاق أرحب في كافة المحافل الأممية، بما في ذلك الوكالة الدولية للطاقة الذرية التي تلعب دور مهم وريادي فيما يتعلق بالعلوم والتطبيقات النووية وتمكين الدول من الاستفادة منها بشكل آمن وفعال في مختلف المجالات. وما اجتماعنا اليوم والحضور عالي المستوى إلا دلالة على أهمية ذلك الدور الذي تؤديه الوكالة في ترجمة مفهوم تسخير الذرة من أجل السلام والتنمية ونقل المعرفة وتعظيم الاستفادة من التطبيقات النووية بكافة صورها، وكذلك الاهتمام بتطوير مفاهيم والمساعدة في ضمان الأمن والأمان النووي وتعزيزهما على كافة الأصعدة، وصيانة نظم التحقق وتطبيق الضمانات التي تعتبر جزءاً أساسياً من منظومة عدم الانتشار. وقد استمرت الوكالة الدولية للطاقة الذرية بقيادة السيد المدير العام خلال العام الماضي وبدعم ومشاركة الدول الأعضاء بالاطلاع بمهامها المركزية بكل كفاءة واقتدار لما يسهم في تحقيق أهدافنا المرجوة. وهنا لا بد من الإشادة بالجهود التي بذلتها الوكالة والعاملين فيها للمحافظة على سير أعمالها، علاوة على الجهود التي بذلتها لدعم الدول الأعضاء لمواجهة تداعيات جائحة كورونا وابتكار آليات جديدة للاستمرار بعملها، والإنجازات التي تحققت مثل المبادرات الجديدة التي أطلقت العام الماضي كمبادرة نيوتك ومبادرة ذرات الأمل التي تضاف إلى رصيدها الزاخر بما يسخر التكنولوجيا النووية لخدمة الإنسانية، علاوة على المؤتمرات العلمية والفنية العديدة التي استمرت الوكالة باستضافتها والمشاركة فيها في شتى المجالات. ختاماً، نجدد شكرنا لكم جميعاً وللأمانة العامة، ونؤكد بأننا لن ندخر جهداً للتعاون مع الجميع في سبيل إنجاح أعمال هذا المؤتمر متمنين للرئاسة وللجميع التوفيق والسداد في الأعمال المناطة بهم. ننتقل الآن إلى البند الأول من أعمالنا، انتخاب مسؤولي المؤتمر وتعيين مكتبه. أدعو الآن إلى تقديم مرشح لمنصب رئيس المؤتمر العام في دورته العادية 66. كما تعلمون جميعا فقد حان دور مجموعة أوروبا الغربية لتقديم الرئيس لهذا العام. وأعطي الكلمة الآن للممثل المقيم الموقر لألمانيا بصفته رئيسا مشاركا لمجموعة أوروبا الغربية. يمكن لسعادتكم مخاطبتنا من مقعدكم.
Thank you, President. On behalf of the Western European Group, I have the pleasure to inform you that your group wishes to nominate His Excellency Alessandro Cortese, Ambassador of the Republic of Italy, as President of the 66th General Conference of the IAEA. Thank you.
أشكر الممثل المقيم الموقر لألمانيا على تقديمه الترشح نيابة عن مجموعة أوروبا الغربية. نظرا لعدم وجود ترشيحات أخرى أقترح انتخاب سعادة السيد أليساندرو كورتيزي السفير والممثل المقيم لإيطاليا بالتزكية رئيسا للمؤتمر العام في دورته العادية 66. وقد تقرر ذلك. وهكذا لقد انتخب سعادة السيد أليساندرو كورتيزي رئيسا للمؤتمر بالتزكية. وبالنيابة عن جميع المندوبين وبالأصالة عن نفسي أود أن أتقدم لسعادته بالتهنئة الحارة وأطيب تمنياتنا بنجاح المؤتمر، وأدعو سعادته الآن إلى تولي الرئاسة. وبذلك أناشد المندوبين توفيرا للوقت ووفقا للقرار الذي اتخذه المؤتمر منذ عدة سنوات ونفذ بنجاح منذ ذلك الحين أن يحتفظوا ببيانات تهنئته إلى حين إدلائهم بكلماتهم في المناقشات.
Good morning to all of us. Excellencies, Mr. Director General, distinguished delegates. At the outset, let me express my gratitude to all of you for electing me and for the trust you have bestowed on me. I feel deeply honored. Special thanks go to the colleagues of the Western European Group, and in particular to its co-chairs, the Permanent Representative of Germany, His Excellency Ambassador Gerd Schmidt-Bremer, and of Liechtenstein, Her Excellency Ambassador Maria Pia Kotbauer, for their support and encouragement. I also wish to convey my deep appreciation to the President of the General Conference at its 65th session, my dear colleague, His Excellency the Ambassador Sadiq Marafi, former Ambassador of Kuwait, for his enlightened stewardship of the conference last year, as well as to his successor, His Excellency Ambassador Talal Al-Fassam, from whom I just took the chair. I will try my best to fulfill this important task as brilliantly as my predecessor. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, we shall not forget that the agency was created with the mission to accelerate and enlarge the contribution of atomic energy to peace, health, and prosperity throughout the world, meaning that nuclear science should be used safely and securely at the peaceful service of all mankind. Having just a look to our agenda, where we touch a lot of very sensitive and important technical and political issues, we can realize that in recent months, unprecedented challenges have emerged and the role of the agency has become even more crucial, arguably one of the most important and delicate in the global multilateral relations. I would also like to stress with relief one good piece of news, if I may say so, that this General Conference takes place in full presence for the first time after more than 2 years of COVID pandemic, during which, despite the difficulties, the agency played an admirable role in facing major threats to nuclear safety and security in different parts of the world and in implementing projects and activities to cope with the major global health emergency of the last centuries. Having all this in mind, I wish to thank wholeheartedly Director General Grossi and the entire staff of the agency for their commitment, dedication and professionalism in conducting the work, thanks to which the IAEA has been able to continue to carry out its functions today, and again, if I may say so, more essential than ever. The latest example is DG's recent mission to Zaporizhia in a situation of danger and extreme political and logistical difficulty. This is the best demonstration not only of the professionalism, but also of the courage that the agency, its DG and its officials are capable of in the fulfillment of their duties. But in order to do this, let me remind you, they must be assured of the support of the board and of all of us convened here today in this General Conference. Distinguished delegates and dear friends, the work which expects us all at the 66th General Conference implies greater commitment and responsibilities than ever. I think we must all be aware of this. In my capacity as chairman, I feel the moral duty to make an appeal to all of you. Let's make sure that the spirit of the United Nations and of the founding principle of the International Atomic Energy Agency, peace, cooperation, scientific progress, technological advancements, economic and human development, sustainability, are alive and kicking in this room. I'm well aware that the so-called Vienna spirit sometimes might seem as it were fading, but I'm convinced that the Vienna spirit will help us in making this General Conference a great success. As I said earlier, we must aim very high to allow the agency to continue contributing to devise concrete solutions to a number of major challenges facing humanity today. Nuclear application can be and must be a real game changer to address all these challenges all over the world. This simple consideration offers also the measure of how important the IAEA is in reaching many of the sustainable development goals of the United Nations. However, excellencies and distinguished delegates, all these aspirations for the progress of the human condition become unattainable if we lose sight of the fundamental values of peace and cooperation among nations and peoples. I thank you for your kind attention and patience, and I count on your support during this General Conference, which I hope will allow us to accomplish successfully our work over the next few days. Thank you very much. Now I go with my speaking points. So I go ahead. Distinguished delegates, I would now suggest that we continue with the election of officers and the appointment of the General Committee. Under Rules 34 and 40 of the Rules of Procedures, the Conference has to elect for the duration of the present session 8 Vice Presidents, the Chair of the Committee of the Whole, and 5 additional members of the General Committee, resulting in a committee of 15 members, with me as its chairperson. I understand that the area groups have provided their candidates, with the exception of the MESA group for the position of a vice president, of one vice president. I also understand that there are still ongoing consultations in the East Europe group to provide one additional member to the General Committee. I should therefore like to submit for your consideration and approval the following proposal, which I have already received, and I will then address the issue of the pending candidates. As the 7 vice presidents, I should like to propose the delegates of the following member states. I will read the name in the English alphabetical order as I have been informed. Australia, Canada, China, Costa Rica, Ghana, Romania, and Sweden. As for the very important role of chairperson of the Committee of the Whole, I propose Minister Mandelenkosi Lunga Bengu, Minister Plenipotentiary from the Permanent Mission of South Africa, and I want to thank South Africa for their availability to chair this important committee. And as the 4 additional members of the General Committee, the delegates of the following member states, and again, I shall read the names in English alphabetical order as I've been informed. Montenegro, Paraguay, Switzerland, United Arab Emirates. I assume that my proposals are acceptable, and accordingly, I take it that the chairperson of the Committee of the Whole and the delegates of the member states, whose names I've read already, are duly elected as the 7, 8 vice presidents and the 4 of the 5 additional members of the General Committee. It is so decided. Now, with regards to the nomination of 1 vice president from the MESA group, I have been informed by the chair of the group that the group has received 1 candidature for the position of vice president of the conference. However, the group was not in a position to make an agreed recommendation to this candidature. May I ask the chair of the MESA group if he could kindly provide any update on the matter? Mr. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you have rightly stated, the group had received 1 candidature for the position of Vice President of the General Committee. However, despite the unrelenting efforts of the group has not been able to make a positive recommendation on this candidature. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the distinguished Ambassador of India for his update, but I want to hear on this point if there are any speakers. Yes, I see the distinguished Ambassador of Yemen. You have the floor, sir.
شكرا السيد الرئيس. يود الجمهورية اليمنية أن أتقدم بخالص الشكر للهند رئيسة مجموعة الشرق الأوسط وجنوب آسيا الميسا وأعضاء المجموعة على مساعيهم الحثيثة التي بذلوها لآخر لحظة للوصول إلى توافق. ونؤكد حرصنا الدائم إلى التوصل إلى تفاهمات داخل المجموعة والحفاظ على التوافق في المجموعة. من المؤسف أن هناك دولة واحدة لم تنضم إلى الإجماع ولم تتعامل بواقعية في الوقت الذي توافق جميع أعضاء المجموعة. السيد الرئيس، تقدمت الجمهورية اليمنية للترشح لمنصب نائب الرئيس المؤتمر عن مجموعة الميسا خلال اجتماعات المجموعة، وتم إرسال مذكرة شفهية بهذا الشأن يوم 25 سبتمبر 2022. السيد الرئيس، نأمل أن تقدم الدول الأعضاء دعمها الجمهورية اليمنية لمنصب نائب الرئيس المخصص لمجموعة الميسا، كما نؤكد دعمنا الكامل لرئيس المؤتمر لإنجاح أعمال مؤتمرنا هذا. شكرا السيد الرئيس.
I thank you for your statement, for your declaration. I see, even if it's far, I think I see the flag of the delegation of Iran. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you so much. Good morning, distinguished colleagues. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Of course, I will leave the congratulatory statements for my head of the delegation, and then we'll proceed accordingly. Mr. President, I would like to put on record the position of the Islamic Job of Iran on the current situation faced the Meza Group with regard to the issue of the election of officers of the General Committee and some other PMO's positions. Mr. President, the session of the General Conference would have worked smoothly without having any organizational challenges, and Iran continues to fully support the operational principles and practices of regional groupings in the framework of international organizations based on the cooperation and accommodation, spirit and inclusiveness of the participation. The rationale of equitable representation in the agencies, policy-making bodies to regional group is under serious systematic attack by few members of the group. It is clear that the group of Meza could not come to consensus on this issue and other available position for the PMOs, on which my delegation will extensively elaborate its position in due time. Iran believes that the representation of the group by member of states in the Bureau is an opportunity to allow the position of the members of the said group to be echoed as appropriate in the deliberation of the PMOs, along with the efforts to facilitate the work and advance the general goals of the relevant bodies. The rationale of equitable geographical representation in the board of directors is that the interests of the position of every group be preserved and represented. Thus, it is unacceptable that a member of the Bureau abuse this stand to pursue a narrow-minded political self-served national agenda. Such an approach will definitely cause disagreement and division within the group. My instruction is to maintain the integrity and tranquility within the group as much as possible and to prevent division within the group by any actor. Despite all efforts by the distinguished ambassador of India, as now echoed, we left no choice but to face. In conclusion, Mr. President, my delegation will continue to avoid confrontation and engage in good faith to allow a smooth conduct of this business in the conference, believes that an unbalanced and discriminatory approach towards nomination of the officers in the Bureau would undoubtedly yield to compromise the constituencies of the IAEA, and that requires an inclusive approach to allow participation of all in the PMOs of the conference. I thank you.
I thank the distinguished ambassador of Iran for his statement, which will be duly included in the official records of the meeting as you rightly requested. But I also, from this brief exchange, understand that the distinguished ambassador of Yemen has submitted his candidature for the position of one vice president of the conference, right now, earlier on. May I take that the conference agrees to elect the candidate I have just mentioned? It is so decided, and I thank you once again for your flexibility. Now, with regards to the additional member of the East European Group, I understand that there are still ongoing consultations within the group, and in order not to delay our work, I would therefore suggest that we proceed with our work as General Committee, and I will inform the conference in due course whenever I receive the update from the Eastern European Group on the outcome of their consultation. I hope, first of all, I wish to really make an appeal to the group and the Slovenian chairmanship of the group to propose some candidates, but I trust that this way of proceeding is agreeable to the conference. Thank you. Now, Members of the General Committee, except for one, have been duly elected. All of them will hold office until the close of the conference's current session. On your behalf and on my own behalf, I would like to offer them my warmest congratulations. I look forward to working closely with them with a view to ensuring a successful conference this week. I shall be requiring the Vice Presidents to take the chair from time to time, and I'm already grateful for your availability, and leave me a little of time for other issues. And I hope that they will make themselves available when called to do so. I propose the holding of the first meeting of the General Committee today in the afternoon at 2 p.m. in our, I would say, lunch break, which will be a meeting break. This meeting will take place in boardroom CR6 at the 7th floor of the C building of the VIC. Further, I would seek your concurrence that we deal with the items of the provisional agenda this morning as contained in document JC 66/1 in the following order, pending receipt of the General Committee recommendation on our provisional agenda. So I'm just showing the way forward, but the actual adoption of the agenda will be done after General Committee's consultation. Item 3, message from the Secretary General of the United Nations. Item 4, statement by the Director General. Then I propose that we take up item 6, contribution to the Technical Cooperation Fund for 2023, and item 7, general debate and annual report for 2021. Therefore, I propose to suspend Rule 42 of the Rules of Procedure of the General Conference, and this is consistent with past practice. Failure to proceed in this way would considerably delay the start of the general debate, in which several ministers are scheduled to speak today. Therefore, may I take it that the conference accept my proposal to suspend Rule 42 and proceed with the consideration of the items as envisaged in provisional agenda, while the agenda will be adopted at a later stage. It is so decided. So, distinguished delegates, we now proceed with item 3 of the agenda, and on this I have the great pleasure of inviting Ms. Ghada Fatih Wali, Director General of the United Nations Office of Vienna, to deliver a message to the General Conference from the Secretary General of the United Nations. I then give the floor with pleasure to Ms. Wali and invite her to address the conference from the lectern. You have the floor, Madam.
Thank you, Mr. President. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the Vienna International Center. It's an honor for me to join you and share with you the message of the Secretary General. I'm pleased to send greetings to the General Conference of the International Atomic Energy Agency. This past year has been marked with grave trials and tests. We face continued challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic, the ramifications of the ongoing war in Ukraine, and other crises of global consequences, not least climate change. On all these fronts, the IAEA has made important contributions to helping achieve a safer and more secure world, acting as an expert, impartial and technical interlocuteur. On COVID-19, the IAEA has utilized nuclear and nuclear-driven techniques to provide critical support to member states. Despite increasing restrictions, the agency has worked to verify the nuclear-related commitments under the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. by assisting more than 140 countries and territories through its technical cooperation program in areas such as health, nutrition, food, agriculture, and climate change. The IAEA has contributed to efforts to advance the 2030 Agenda and Sustainable Development Goals. And, of course, the IAEA has been at the forefront of the critical task to ensure the safety, security, and safeguarding of nuclear facilities in Ukraine, especially the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. I thank Director General Grossi and the IAEA team for their critical work to consult with relevant parties on concrete measures to ensure the safety of the plant and the area surrounding it. I believe that the presence of the IAEA at the plant is a very important deterrent, and I repeat my call for an end to attacks and for the re-establishment of the purely civilian nature of this plant. I look forward to further strengthening our cooperation across the board. I wish you a successful General Conference. Excellencies, distinguished participants, Director General Grossi, on behalf of the UN family in Vienna, allow me to add my appreciation to that of the Secretary General for the IAEA's work for a safer and more secure world. I wish you fruitful discussions and a very successful session. Thank you.
I wish really to thank Her Excellency Ghada Fatih Weli for, first of all, for her presence with us and for delivering such an important message on behalf of the Secretary General. And in turn, on behalf of the General Conference, I really would ask her to convey to the Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Antonio Guterres, our appreciation for his message. Distinguished delegates, we now come to item 4, and I have now the great pleasure in inviting the Director General of the IAEA, Mr. Rafael Mariano Grossi, to make his statement to General Conference. Rafael, you have the floor.
Dear colleagues, good morning. It is a great pleasure to see you again this year. As the President was just reminding us, almost as always. I've been informed that around 2,700 registrations have been received this year, which bring us to more or less the amounts of historical average. I'd like to start by thanking Ghada, our director here in the VIC, for the message you kindly read to us from Secretary General Guterres, with whom, by virtue of the realities that we are facing, I have been interacting quite frequently and intensively, and I thank you for that. Please convey to the Secretary General the recognition of the IAEA. It's also a pleasure to be having this session under the presidency of Ambassador Cortese. Un piacere di vederti, lavorare con te. Grazie. Little did we know, a year ago, when we met for the General Conference, that a year later we would do so under the circumstances that we know. The combination of war again in Europe, the energy crisis that we are living and that was compounded with the climate change and the climate crisis that we already knew and we were fighting against, and the food crisis in a convergence that appears mesmerizing, is in front of us. It is at the same time a source of personal commitment and of yours as well, I am sure, that we know that in many of the things we do here at the IAEA, we have the ability to mitigate, when not to change, some of these enormous challenges we are facing. And of course, we have first, at the top of our list and our preoccupations, the situation in Ukraine. As the Secretary General has said, this war must stop. But before that happens, we must, and here is where the IAEA comes to play, we must make everything in our power to prevent a nuclear accident that would add tragedy to the suffering. From the beginning of this war, I have been in Ukraine several times, and the missions of the IAEA as well. Recently, as it was reminded to us a minute ago, we were at the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. A nuclear power plant, the biggest in Europe, which is under fire. Incredible to believe, but true. In front of this reality, we need to act. If something happens there, we will not have a natural catastrophe to blame for. We will just have our own inaction, because we knew what needed to be done. And there is a plan on the table to do it. Last week, I had an opportunity to start consultations with Ukraine and with the Russian Federation on the urgent establishment of a nuclear safety and security protection zone around the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. This is possible. This must be done, and I am ready to continue these consultations in both countries this week so that we can protect this plant. The work there will allow us to stabilize a situation that is simply unacceptable. And I am convinced that it's something that we can do. Of course, when we refer to the issues of Zaporizhia and the way in which we can work, I want to pay homage to the mission of the IAEA present there. We have established a permanent presence, something that had never happened before, at wartime in a facility, and we are keeping the international community informed, and as the Secretary General rightly said, deterring to the extent we can those who want to do harm there. Our work will continue, and I hope to keep you updated and to bring at least, if not the good, the positive news of some good developments while we establish a protection zone there. This issue is, of course, very closely linked to the climate change and the energy crisis we are undergoing. And we know that by virtue of this convergence, which was not imaginable before, many countries, confirmed users of nuclear energy, but also many others are looking at nuclear energy as a way to ensure their energy needs and also to address another existential crisis that we are facing in the global warming phenomenon that we know. We continue our work in the 32 countries operating the 438 reactors in operation, when 57 are being constructed all over the world. And many of you, especially from developing countries, are coming to us saying we also want to benefit from this clean source of energy, in particular in its new manifestations through small and modular reactors. The agency is going to help you. The agency is going to build the capacities that you all need and you deserve, following strictly the letter of Article 4 of the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons that enshrined this principle of unfettered access to the peaceful uses of nuclear energy. The IAEA has, in the past, and will continue, having the rightful place that nuclear energy must have in the global debates on nuclear energy. We did it last year in Glasgow, and we are going to do it this year in Sharm el-Sheikh, where in Egypt, a country that has taken a decision to have a nuclear program is going to be hosting this important conference. And so, from an unexpected participant 2 years ago, a nuclear pavilion will be opened in Sharm el-Sheikh. Times are indeed a-changing. The work on nuclear energy, of course, is important, but equally important is what we do to improve the lives of those in need. And here is where our work on nuclear applications come to the fore. We said that we should do much more to fight the silent killer of non-communicable diseases, and in particular, cancer. In February this year, I went to Addis Ababa, and with the President of the African Union, we launched Rays of Hope, because 70%, 70, of the African population does not have any access to radiotherapy, because in many other parts of the world, in Latin America, where I come from, and in some parts in Asia, people simply die of absolutely preventable and curable forms of cancer. And Rays of Hope is raising hopes. From Benin to Chad, to the Democratic Republic of Congo, to Mali, to Kenya, to Senegal, and many other countries are already working with us, increasing their capacities to fight cancer. Support us. It's not difficult. It's not expensive. We have the technology. We know how to do it. And we do it in close cooperation with WHO. Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus has been supporting us from day one. And we are in constant contact with the WHO teams to provide a better service. In the same spirit of cooperation, we are working on food security. A few days ago in Rome, I met with my dear friend, DG Chu Dongyu, and the IAEA and the FAO are also joining forces to work on food security. Our incredible laboratories in Seibersdorf are helping us in plant breeding, in food production, and in many other areas that are so required by our member states to face the problems linked not only with the current food crisis, but also in developing drought-resistant crops and other forms of production to face the problems linked with global warming. The environment is suffering, and the IAEA is working through its environmental and marine laboratories on another flagship initiative that has captured the imagination and the will of many around the world, and it is called NUTEC, Nuclear Technologies Against Plastic Pollution, one of the major challenges of our time. And we are going to be working with you in many, many regions of the world on this urgent task that we have ahead of us. Dear colleagues, of course, we are known as the nuclear watchdog, and we take this task very seriously. We must prevent nuclear proliferation. We must make sure that this blessing of the nuclear energy for peace and for development is not turned into an instrument of destruction and suffering. We take this job seriously as more and more countries precisely are moving into nuclear energy. We also look into the issues that have been capturing, of course, the headlines, and we know that we have in here issues like the ones that we still need to resolve with the Islamic Republic of Iran. And I welcome the presence of the President of the Atomic Energy Organization of Iran, with whom I will be meeting later today, because we need to find common solutions for problems that are not going to go away if we don't solve them in a collaborative fashion. Unfortunately, this is not the case with DPRK, where a nuclear program is forging ahead, unfortunately, against the provisions of several United Nations Security Council resolutions. The world of proliferations and safeguards is evolving, and of course, with the advent of projects to benefit from naval nuclear propulsion, the IAEA must also provide the necessary and indispensable technical answers to this issue, which is foreseen in the existing legal framework. Ladies and gentlemen, this work, as you see, is vast. We are faced with an enormous number of problems, but we know that when we work here at the IAEA, we have the enormous privilege of doing something about them. I look forward to this great yearly gathering, to listen from you, to hear from you, but above all, to get the support that, as you have heard me now say, it is even more indispensable. I thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. And I really, after the applause, which was well deserved, I want to thank the Director General for his statement. He not only dealt with specific agenda items for this session, but also provided us with an interesting overview and some food of thought, if I can say so, on the main issues and challenges ahead for the agency. And I'm also sure that his views will receive careful consideration by member states, also in the perspective on our consideration in the next few days. Distinguished delegates, let us now move to item 6 of the agenda, but with your permission, I should now like to say a few words about the contributions to the Technical Cooperation Fund. The Board of Governors on 6 June 2022 recommended a figure of 92,600,000 euros as the target for voluntary contribution to the Technical Cooperation Fund for the year 2023, for next year. Document GC 66/15 before you has attached to it a table showing the contribution which each member state would need to make in order to meet its share of the target. The early pledging and payment of contribution to the Technical Cooperation Fund greatly helped the Secretariat in planning the agency's technical cooperation program, and I would therefore urge all delegations that are in the position to do so and have not done so as yet to notify the Secretariat during the current session of the contributions that the governments will be making to the TC Fund for 2023. I am pleased to note that already 32 member states have made their pledges to the TC Fund for 2023. For your information, at the end of our session, under a later agenda item, I will report on the contribution, which have been pledged up to that time, the time I will make the report, and I hope that I will be in a position to report favorably on the percentage of the 2023 target figure already pledged. Pledges can be made during meetings at the table to my right, marked with the description financial contributions. Between meetings, they can be made in room number MOE 67 on the ground floor of this building, where delegates can also make inquiries concerning the regular budget contributions. Distinguished delegates, let us now turn to item 7 of the agenda, which is the general debate and the annual report for 2021. Before giving the floor to the first speaker on my list, I would like to make a few comments and suggestions regarding the conduct of the general debate, which is expected to continue during the next few days. Member States were provided the option of submitting pre-recorded video statements to be delivered in the general debate. And Member States are requested as well to limit the respective statements delivered in the general debate to 7 minutes, also to allow us to finish our work before the weekend, next weekend. Longer statements, of course, may be posted on the General Conference webpage. Therefore, I really invite Member States who have statements which are longer than the 7 minutes to deposit their statement and limit themselves to a shorter one. In this connection, I would also appeal for your cooperation, allowing me to start our meetings punctually every day and ask you to be available to deliver your statements when called upon to do so. Delays in starting our meetings will reduce the number of speakers we can accommodate in each session. Lastly, I appeal for your understanding and cooperation in the arrangements of the daily speakers list and the order of speakers. The list, I remind you, was opened in June. However, adjustments may be required in order to meet contingencies. I'm confident that the Secretariat will do its best to cope with conflicting demands and will be consulting individual delegations when finalizing the list of speakers for each day. I take it that the conference is in agreement with the suggestion which I have made with regard to the handling of the speakers list for the general debate. I don't see any comments. Is therefore so agreed, and I thank you for your cooperation. Now, we start with the moment many of you were waiting for, certainly with me as the chair. So I now have to open the list of speakers. I have the great pleasure in inviting the first speaker in the general debate. In this case is Mr. Mohammed Eslami, Vice President and Head of the Atomic Energy Organization of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Sir, you have the floor.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. جناب آقای رئیس، آقای مدیر کل، عالی جنابان، خانوما و آقایان، سلام علیکم. آقای رئیس، در ابتدا مایلم انتخاب جناب عالی را به ریاست کنفرانس عمومی تبریک گفته و از حمایت و همکاری هیئت خود شما را مطمئن نمایم. برنامه‌های توسعه‌ای جمهوری اسلامی ایران در راستای پیشرفت و گسترش عدالت با هدف دستیابی به توسعه پایدار است. سند جامع راهبردی توسعه صنعت هسته‌ای برای افق 20 ساله تا 2040 در سطح ملی به تصویب رسیده و در دستور کار سازمان انرژی اتمی ایران قرار گرفته است. بر اساس این سند، سهم برق هسته‌ای در سبد انرژی کشور به حداقل 20% از کل برق کشور افزایش می‌یابد و در این راستا احداث 10,000 مگاوات برق هسته‌ای جدید برای سالهای آتی پیش بینی شده است. در این سند همچنین توسعه تولید و کاربرد رادیوایزوتوپ‌ها، کاربرد گسترده پرتو در زمینه‌های سلامت، کشاورزی، محیط زیست و صنعت پیش بینی شده است. در این رابطه جمهوری اسلامی ایران از ابتکار پرتوهای امید که موضوع اصلی مجمع علمی سال 2022 نیز هست استقبال می‌کند. آژانس مسئولیت ویژه‌ای در زمینه تحقق هدف جهانی برای به صفر رساندن تولید گاز کربن تا 2050 بر عهده دارد. خوشبختانه مدیر کل آژانس اهمیت این موضوع را در مجامع بین المللی مختلفی از جمله در 26مین کنفرانس کشورهای عضو کنوانسیون سازمان ملل متحد درباره تغییرات اقلیمی که در گلاسکو برگزار شد و همچنین طی 10مین نشست کنفرانس بازنگری NPT در نیویورک برجسته ساخته است. آقای رئیس، مایلم از این فرصت برای ارائه برخی توضیحات در خصوص برجام به عنوان یک توافق استفاده کنم. برجام نتیجه تلاشی جمعی است که در برگیرنده توازنی حساس مرکب از مسئولیت‌ها و اقدامات متقابل است که طی آن ایران محدودیت در فعالیت‌های غنیسازی، کاهش سرعت و ظرفیت فعالیت‌های هسته‌ای و سیستم راستی آزمایی سختگیرانه‌ای را برای مدت مشخص شده‌ای می‌پذیرد و در ازای آن طرف مقابل میبایست تحریم‌های ظالمانه غیرقانونی و موانع مرتبط با از سرگیری همکاری‌ها و مراودات مالی، تجاری و اقتصادی ایران را حذف نموده و ادعاهای واهی علیه برنامه‌ها و فعالیت‌های صلح‌آمیز ایران را خاتمه دهد. امریکا برخلاف خواست جامعه جهانی مفاد برجام و قطعنامه 2231 شورای امنیت سازمان ملل متحد را نقض کرده، از این توافق خارج شده و به سیاست منحوس فشار حد اکثری متوسل شده که در اجرای آن شکست خورده و به بی اثر بودن این سیاست اعتراف نموده است. پس از گذشت 2.5 سال امریکا تحریم‌های فزاینده‌ای را علیه بخش‌های مختلف اقتصاد ایران اعمال نموده و 3 کشور اروپایی و اتحادیه اروپا نیز با بی‌عملی در مقابل آن مواجه بودند. لذا مجلس شورای اسلامی قانون اقدام راهبردی برای رفع تحریم‌ها و صیانت از منافع ملت ایران را تصویب نمود که در آن سازمان انرژی اتمی ایران ملزم به اجرای اقدامات مشخصی گردیده است. همانطور که در فرصت‌های گوناگون بیان شده است، جمهوری اسلامی ایران همچنان به توافق 2015 متعهد میباشد. اقدامات جبرانی ایران در پاسخ به نقض تعهدات طرف‌های مقابل صورت گرفته است. چنانچه دیگر طرف‌های این توافق با رفع کلیه موانع و برداشتن تحریم‌ها به تعهداتشان بازگردند، تداوم اقدامات اجرایی ایران با کسب مجوز قانونی از مجلس شورای اسلامی تعیین خواهد شد. آقای رئیس، جمهوری اسلامی ایران همواره حامی اجرای کامل و غیر تبعیض‌آمیز معاهده عدم اشاعه و موافقتنامه‌های جامع پادمان بوده است. ایران سابقه‌ای مثال زدنی در همکاری با آژانس در این زمینه دارد. مایلم روشن سازم که هیچ گونه فعالیت یا مواد هسته‌ای اعلام شده در ایران وجود ندارد و تمامی اتهامات صرفاً مبتنی بر اطلاعات ساختگی و نادرست رژیم غاصب اسرائیل است. جمهوری اسلامی ایران حقیقتاً انتظار دارد که آژانس گزارش‌دهی، نظارت و راستی آزمایی خود را به صورت حرفه‌ای، بی‌طرفانه و مستقل‌تر انجام دهد. حضار گرانقدر، جناب آقای رئیس، انتظار داریم آژانس برای حفظ اعتبار و انسجام خود اجازه ندهد برخی از عناصر اتهامات کهنه‌ای را که در سال 2015 بسته شده‌اند، من دوباره تاکید می‌کنم، اتهامات کهنه‌ای که در طول سالیان بوده و در سال 2015 بسته شده است را به بهانه‌های مختلف بازخوانی و مطرح نماید. ما معتقدیم که آژانس باید از اتکا اطلاعات بی اساس از طریق منابع غیر قابل اعتماد جامعه پادمان و سیستم راستی آزمایی قوی تبعیت کند و تنها زمان این جریان قابل بازگشت هست که تحریم‌های غیرقانونی وضع شده علیه ملت ایران به بهانه‌های واهی لغو گردد و ما همواره آماده گفتگو و تعامل سازنده بودیم و خواهیم بود. متشکرم.
I thank the Vice President of the Islamic Republic of Iran for his statement, and I now have the pleasure to give the floor to the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Netherlands, Mr. Wopke Hoekstra, who has forwarded us his speech on video.
Ladies and gentlemen, in today's unstable and grim reality, international cooperation is more important than ever. The work of the International Atomic Energy Agency is absolutely essential. Over the past months, one name has been on everyone's mind: Zaporizhzhia. The incidents at this nuclear power plant in Ukraine continue to pose a great danger to workers as well as to anyone living near the plant. Director General Grossi, I would like to commend you and your team for your boldness and determination in protecting their safety as well as ours. You have achieved an important diplomatic feat in ensuring inspections could take place at the power plant. And by doing so, you have shown the value not only of your own work, but of the agreements we have made together. The values of the rules-based order. And despite severe conflict, the work of the agency continues. Inspections underpinned by our common interests. Inspections that form the basis of our safety and security. And it is paramount that the 7 indispensable pillars of nuclear safety and security are upheld. They represent the most fundamental of the basic rules that should be followed in order to ensure the safe and secure operation of nuclear facilities. They're easy to understand and don't require a full read-through of the agency's safety standards and nuclear security series. Ladies and gentlemen, in the unstable reality we all live in, we must be able to rely on existing commitments to non-proliferation and nuclear disarmament. And in that respect, we must continue to strengthen the nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation regime. We all know that the Non-Proliferation Treaty is fundamental to international peace and security. It represents our shared determination to prevent nuclear conflict and work towards global zero. But like any other commitment, it requires a collaborative effort to ensure it remains relevant. In light of this, the Netherlands has endeavored to play a constructive role as one of the co-chairs of the NPT Review Conference. We regret Russia's blocking of this final document, preventing us from reaching a consensus. But I also note that 190 countries were ready to compromise and strike a deal. We should use that positive momentum to keep moving forward in making our world a safer place. In the unstable reality we live in, we also need safeguards. Because without safeguards, there wouldn't be a non-proliferation regime. Hence, we call on all member states who have not yet done so to sign and ratify a comprehensive safeguards agreement and an additional protocol. We support the agency's state-level approach, ensuring a safeguard system that is fit for purpose. And in respect of new commitments with regard to non-proliferation, a renewed nuclear agreement with Iran is and remains of the utmost importance. We're all aware of the importance and positive impact of nuclear technology. Technology that can help cure, feed, and protect people. Technology that can improve our lives and the world we live in, on condition that it is safe and secure, and that it doesn't contribute to nuclear proliferation. It is the agency that helps us on all of these counts. And as the use of nuclear technology grows, so does the amount of nuclear material worldwide. We must ensure that this material is used responsibly, and that the agency has the means and tools to apply its safeguards and carry out its safety and security tasks. Ladies and gentlemen, we need boldness and we need determination to protect our safety and security. Boldness and determination as shown by Mr. Grossi and his team. Boldness and determination that we must show today. I wish you a very fruitful conference. Thank you very much.
I thank the Deputy Prime Ministers and Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Netherlands for his statement, and now I wish to give the floor to the acting Chairman, State Nuclear Regulatory Inspectorate of Ukraine, Mr. Oleg Korikov. You have the floor, sir.
Mr. President, let me congratulate you on your election as a president of the